of the temperature. And the red ones are the climate change scenarios, which say there's no climate protection, climate change protection, or a limit of greenhouse gases. Blue is much climate change mitigation, climate mitigation. And but we see that even now we are already outside of even the worst case scenarios. So it's again the local issues take the local there are local problems with heat. So even if yes, let's go to the next slide, please. So worms, which lays in these special in this very heat in this very heat vulnerable area in Germany, was one of the first ones in Germany to then produce such a heat action plan. It was a lighthouse project in the year 2020. And it took almost 3 years to finish it. And it has a few goals. For example, it wanted to analyze the heat stress in the city. It wanted to create short, medium, and long-term adaptation measures. And it wanted to form stakeholder networks. Again, you have to go back to the presentation. It wanted to create stakeholder networks, which were important, like nurses, kindergartners, doctors, or social workers, all of them who are in connection to these vulnerable groups, which are specifically which are especially under danger by heat. So for worms, it was chosen that elderly people, children, low-income households, outside workers, and pregnant and chronically ill persons are our vulnerable groups. And we will come back to them later. Next slide, please. Because from this project in Worms, which was finished over a year ago, we tried to create similar plans all over Europe in 3 pilot cities, in Weiz in Austria, in Maribor in Slovenia, and Hastu-Persemeni in Hungary. Almost a tongue twister, the last one. And next slide, please. We came together and we tried to recreate the process which was done in Worms in these different cities all over Europe. So at the base on the left side, we had to create a heat analysis. We had to transfer the knowledge from Worms to the pilot cities and then create a heat actions strategy. And then on the second task, there was the installation of special pilot actions like green areas in the city, or in this picture, you can see a pergola in Maribor in the kindergarten. So it creates shade and cooling through it. And at the end, there will be a formulation of a heat adaptation strategy. Next slide, please. So we had to prioritize what do we want to do? How do we get these heat maps? And we wanted to be based on open source data. So we didn't want to have any licensing fees. And then, of course, it had to be we had some time constraints. It had to be finished at the beginning of the project. And we had not that many workforce connected to it. So again, time constraint, workforce constraint. And we didn't want to use many like special data from the local authorities, or which is only possible to get if you know the local mayor or something. So our data foundation wanted to ask 2 questions. The first, what is the situation now? Where we have to act first. So these are the heat stress maps. And then what's the situation in the future? Why do we need to act? Which is the climate analysis. I will take only a short look into the climate analysis, but it's also important to provide a picture for the future to legitimize why we have to act to the political figures in your local municipality. So next slide, please. So first of all, we created this climate analysis. This example is for Maribor in Slovenia. On the left side, you see the yearly temperature change. We created a climate ensemble, but this is not the important part of the analysis. It's the right part of the screen of the slide. We can see the heat days. How will the heat days evolve through the these three periods. So we see we have a steady increase of heat days, and heat days are especially dangerous for vulnerable groups. It's on the heat days where the people die and the mortality rates go up, and where you have the most severe health issues for the people. And then, for example, average consecutive heat days. This is a convoluted way of say heat waves. How long will heat waves endure? For example, in the earliest period, we said it's around 2.5 heat days. So days with a temperature of over 30 degrees, which are back to back to each other. So it's especially again dangerous for vulnerable groups. And this number was rise too. So heat waves were getting longer and more severe. Next slide, please. So now we come to the main point, the open source heat map creation. So next, you have to do one click, please. Yes, or do two. Then we have the slide full. Yeah. So first, we wanted to find out what are the heat days. So um, uh, we wanted to use satellite data for the creation of the heat days, but we don't know when to look for the right satellite images if you don't know on what day a heat day occurs in your city. For this, we use Copernicus open source data. I think it was in the Mentimeter. Someone mentioned it, so it's common knowledge. It's a huge database. There's one tool, one data set in it. It's called reanalysis, which combines measured data and climate models to create an hourly data set of weather variables all over Europe, for every spot, every location in Europe. Through this, we get days over 30 degrees. We did this over a toolbox on the website, which is kind of Python, or you can use a special tool called CDO to work with climate data. And then one click more, please. And then we find out where we have the heat days in your city. So days with over 30 degrees. And then we had to find the according satellite images of these days. So we know when the heat days were, and then we had to find the fitting or the fitting satellite images for this day. And then next slide, please. So one more click, please. I think the animation, something, yeah, it's then through the satellite data, we could calculate the land surface temperature using GIS. It's QGIS is an open source tool too. You can use every kind of GIS tool you have at your service. It's through 3 different satellite bands. You can create this land surface temperature and a special module, but this is open source, the procedure, so you can look it up, create it yourself in GIS, and then use it, and then repeat the process. So you have multiple days of land surface temperature for your city. So multiple heat days you can combine and create an average value. The next slide, please. 2 more clicks, please. Yes. So, and then we classified the image. So we have only the hotspots to classify and give the city the heat hotspots, not so they know where to act first. So you can see we can have a bigger picture in the next slide, but we also integrated local data like hospitals, like kindergartens, nursing homes. So this is the big example. On the left side, you see Maribor. On the right side, you see Weiz. Weiz is in Austria. Maribor is in Slovenia. It's not that far from each other, actually. And on the left side, we had to work with local data. So on for the left side, we had hospitals, kindergartens, nursing homes, schools, and we could put it in the map too. And so you see where those two combine, or where those two are in the same area, where we have a heat hotspot and where we have vulnerable infrastructures like kindergartens, hospitals, schools, etc. And on the right side, we combined it with demographic data. So these are people between 65 and 85 years old. So another vulnerable group, and we combine that with the heat map, so we can see, oh, if we want to do something for the elderly, maybe in this or this area, we should act first because there's a higher density of these vulnerable groups, and we have a heat hotspot at the same area. Next slide, please. And then the pilot cities, for example, here Hungary, Hastöbársömi, used the heat map to create in their stakeholder meetings where people met and discussed where do we put the green islands in the city, and they took the heat maps and looked at it and then decided together where they want these green these green how to say it, these green islands. And so this was taken as as input for it. Next slide, please. I think I have to hurry up a bit. So as a summary, the resources needed, you can see it here, you can read yourself. It's the input data, it's all freely available, but not demographic data. This is highly sensible oftentimes, so you have to look it up at your local authority. And the staff skills, it's you need someone who knows GIS, who knows something with statistical knowledge when you have this climate data, some coding interest or experience. It's not much, but they have to, you have to go through it somehow. And depending on your experience, this whole process can take up only maybe 1 or 2 weeks to a few months if you're unexperienced and you have to learn everything from scratch. Next slide, please. And open source, it's now better than ever because almost 2 weeks ago, geodata did become open source in all over Europe. So in Germany, it was often the issue that every federal state had different geodata openly available, but now it's free everywhere, and it will be free in most of Europe in these months or years, in the coming years. In Germany, it's already free since 2 weeks ago. Next slide, please. So to summarize, what was the advantages of this method? We had after a little amount of time and analysis, we know where to act first for the project, where we had to do the pilot actions. We didn't have to pay licensing fees. It could be done anywhere in Europe. It was relatively fast. It could be done in-house. We didn't have to hire external experts, and it's politically relevant to convince your local policymakers to act now. If they see if they have a map in hand, and my colleague couldn't be here from the city of Worms. It was their experience too. If they had the maps in hand and they saw here this and this changes, here you have your heat vulnerable groups here and there. The people really listens. The media caught attention. It was in the newspaper. It was in the political forums of the city. It draw attention, and it was very convincing in the arguments of adapting or creating such a heat action plans. And if you want to do it yourself, you could improve it with a cold airflow analysis, because we didn't do that because we didn't have the time for it. But if you would do it, I would strongly advise it, that you would look into it. And I think the next one is just advertising, an advertising slide for, this is the Ready for Heat project. There you can look up the heat analysis and the strategy and action plan concept. That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Axel. Very interesting topic, very practical issue. So now it's for you, the audience, the plenum. If you have any questions, then please free to ask. I didn't mention it before, but we want to give the speakers the opportunity to present their examples and gather the questions and answer them after each topic, each presentation. So if you have any questions about the heat maps or heat action plans, then just raise your hand or open your mic. Can also type it in the chat if you like. No. I don't see. Yes, here. Mr. Musin. I hope I pronounced it right.
Very well, thank you.
Yeah.
My question is about the projection, climate projection. Do you have any tool for in order to provide a projection of heat waves or something like that in your cities?
So oftentimes or sometimes, so we did it internally. We created a whole ensemble for ourselves, and we have some tools where we can analyze climate models and use this data to, for example, project these consecutive heat days, which would be heat waves at the end. And so we used it that way, but sometimes there are federal institutions which provide these kind of data, but for a broader, so for a bigger scope for not federal states, but the next lower level, but not for your local municipality. Um, but your question was more if we have like a tool which could provide this data.
Yeah, because I think
Yeah,
when you match observation ERA 5 or something like that and
yeah,
satellite information,
yeah,
you only rely on actual observation and not for the future climate change or something like that. But I know that the climate projection are very coarse, so you cannot have a small scale exposure impact. So of course, the scale
yeah.
is driving you to the correct answer to the local people. So, but I was wondering if something like that could be assessed even for the future.
Yeah, it is pretty difficult. I saw it most of the time. If I saw it, it was like you make assumptions and then change your models through your assumptions. And this can work, but it has its own problems at the end. Are your assumptions correct? Are they under the real values at the end, or do you? Yeah. But yeah, unfortunately, I don't have a real.
Mm. Uh, okay, thank you. Are there more questions? Then yeah, maybe one question from my side. Axel, you said the with the tools or with the results from your analysis and the maps, you you spoke with a lot of different peoples. So from politicians to like other stakeholders, organizations also in the cities. Did you have, was it hard to explain or hard to understand, or was there like an awareness what's the problem and what's yeah, the issue about the heat analysis, the heat action plans?
So I can only explain what I witnessed in Worms, where I was already working with them too. And when they introduced the heat maps and created these very nice and clear maps of their city and showed where are the vulnerable groups, where's the heat stress, where's it located? It's in the then when my colleagues went to politicians, went to the firemen, or went to different the different people in the city ministries, and then they noticed that it was really convincing for them. It was really it's if it's on the nose, if you can see it, if you have it in the hand, and if it says it's based on climate analysis, it's based on satellite data. It was easy for them to convince the different parties and people. When people thought, aha, this is my street, here do I live, where does it change, how does it change in the coming years, or how is am I living in a heat stressed area? Maybe I was always noticing it. Maybe if I'm getting older, should I maybe think about it right now? If in 10 years, if it's getting even more warm and if it's already a heat stressed area, maybe should I take any should I adapt myself in any ways? So it was yeah, it was really convincing for the public, I would say, as well as for politicians or
Okay, well,
yeah.
you convinced me to have a look at it or a closer look at it. So thank you again for this presentation. And now I want to go on to the next part of the next example from digital tools or ideas. And I hope we have Dina El Barshawi, I hope I pronounced it right, here in the audience, because again, we had like a lot of some issues with the registration and the naming of the persons here. So I cannot see everyone on a
But she's present, Dina is.
Okay. Then maybe you could just open your microphone and hello.
No.
Yeah, now we can hear you.
Okay.
Hi.
Okay, maybe it's the headphones wasn't working. Okay, great.
Okay, now we can hear you. Yes. Okay.
Perfect.
Okay, you had an example of digital tools and geographic data, and I would just switch the presentation, but maybe in the meantime you can just briefly introduce yourself.
Sure,
And welcome.
Thank you so much. Okay, so hello everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Dina Berjawi. Basically, I'm from Lebanon, Beirut, and I'm the marketing manager in G-Section. So today I'm excited to talk how G-Section is contributing to support the sustainable development goals through initiative digital tools and geographic data. So basically, the next slide, I'm going to show you a quick video just to grab your attention how the world is facing.
Okay, just have to start it, I guess.
Yes. I think
It stopped. Oh, okay.
No. It's not working? Maybe you need to restart it like from the beginning.
Pardon me? Sorry.
Maybe you need to restart it from the beginning just to see if it's playing.
So okay, you don't see this because I'm listening and I see it, but okay, can just go back. But you heard you had the sound, no?
Me, no. I don't know about everyone.
Okay.
No, I couldn't hear it.
No
Too.
audio, no nothing.
Okay, in my headphones there was a sound, but I don't know if it's working. If I have to like just switch some audio. I hope that's that it's working then. Let's have another try. Do you have a sound?
No,
Okay.
I mean, if it's
Okay.
not working, maybe we can skip it or.
Okay. Yeah. Maybe do you have like a link where we can see this, or that you can present us afterwards?
Yeah, I mean, I can share if you want
Yeah.
my presentation.
Yeah, maybe not in right now, but that we can like view it in the after the meeting. Yeah. Sorry about
Okay.
that. I don't.
No, it's okay.
As I said, now on my headphones I can hear it, but unfortunately this audio signal is not going through. I'm not sure
That's
why.
okay. We can skip it and go to the next slide, please.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. Okay. So basically, I'm gonna mention about G-Section. G-Section is an initiative and dynamic Italian company, part of Team Dev ecosystem, that is specialized in geospatial technology, specifically Geographic Information System, GIS. G-Section leverage advanced GIS tools and techniques, providing comprehensive solutions that address various socioeconomic and environmental challenges. By integrating spatial data analysis with strategic planning, G-Section helps organizations and communities to drive informed decision and challenges and enhance sustainability efforts. GIS support the Sustainable Development Goals by enabling spatial analysis, data integration, and informed decision-making across diverse sectors and geographical scales. As part of our goals is initiative and digitalized workflow, collective demand management, and managed data, spatial data. And basically, our solution is composed to three categories for national statistic, international corporation, and GIS for conservation. Next slide, please. So, our services is basically based in Italy since it's an Italian company, and you can in Albania, Moldavia, Mali, Ivory Coast, Mozambique. Next slide, please. Okay. So, GIS for sustainable development. GIS plays an essential role in supporting the Sustainable Development Goals by facilitating digital data collection, analysis, monitoring, and collaboration. Now, when it comes to collect and visualize SDG data, digital and geo-enabled data collection allow SDG actors to collect data on the ground in a scalable way. This process could help with calculation and analytic capabilities, support data indicators quality. For analyze and plan programs, by contributing to the SDG achievement, interactive mapping platform effectively visualize SDG data, enabling stakeholders to identify patterns and make informed decisions to plan sustainable development and to allocate resources to have the greatest possible impact. For monitoring change and impact, GIS tools enable effective monitoring and evaluation of SDG progress, ensuring alignment and adaptation of efforts and proactively identify new needs with spatial analysis of local conditions. For share SDG data partnership and collaboration, it facilitates the free flow of information between policymakers and other SDG partners through open data sharing, boosting partnership building, which amplifies the impact of on SDG goals. Finally, engage stakeholders, education, and community by demonstrating SDG progress and tell the stories of communities impacted by the SDGs with GIS. Multimedia storytelling, collaboration, and field data collection tools inspire and mobilize stakeholders and foster grassroots community engagement. Next one, please. Now, regarding climate change perception, the phenomenon of climate change represents one of the most pressing challenges of our time. Currently, Earth's climate is undergoing changes at an exceptional rate compared to any other period in modern civilization. This rapid change has been met with increased public awareness and concern and driven by combination of scientific research, visible environmental impact. Therefore, to understand public perception of climate change is crucial for developing effective communication and mitigation policies. Now, to achieve this, we utilized a digital smartphone for collecting georeference questionnaires and an interactive dashboard visualizing in real time the collected data for having insights on the result and climate change prospection patterns, and gather comprehensive data on how individuals perceive climate change, including their understanding of its cause and their concepts. The other one is perception mapping. Now, perception mapping has proven to be a very useful tool, not only for visualizing tangible heritage, but also for restoring intangible assets on the map. Now, perception mapping enhances analysis by visualizing spatial variation in public perception. It also provides insights into how different regions perceive climate change, severity, and impacts. Now, what are basically the benefits of perception mapping? First of all, it illustrates regional hotspot of concerns or awareness. It also helps tailor of communication strategy to address a specific regional perception. And finally, it facilitates targeted mitigation policies based on localized public sentiments. Next one, please. Okay. Now, when it comes to building awareness through students and young citizens, the first initiative is SDG Open Data that supports educational process by empowering learners with critical knowledge and skill needed to engage deeply with global issue, fostering a holistic understanding of the interconnected social, economic, and environmental dimension of sustainability. The second one is data literacy. Data literacy, it enhances students' data literacy skills by providing opportunities to work with a real data set, interpret information, and communicate findings effectively. Now, the second initiative I would like to share just to demonstrate how interactive tools can support teaching by providing in an interactive way enriched with geographic elements. It's called SDG Game. SDG Game is an initiative, innovative that brings together education, engagement, and global awareness. It's basically a question-based game developed by G-Section, and it's inspired by UN board game Go Goals. These goals were set by the UN and adopted by all member states. It provides a comprehensive roadmap for achieving a better and more sustainable future for all by 2030. This tools basically is designed to educate, disseminate, and collective debate about the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. Basically, users can explore, understand the complexity and the interconnection of these goals in a fun yet in an educative way. It's basically consists of 6 questions per objective and the final map-based question. Now, distinguishing the importance of accessible learning tools, G-Section made SDG Game available free of charge to schools, young citizens, local government, and organization. Next one, please.
Cool. Oh, thanks.
The one
Wow.
before.
Sorry. Go back. No. Don't see it? Yes, I know.
Okay, now
Sorry.
that's okay. So finally, when it comes to our third solution, it's called ClipMap. ClipMap is a project in collaboration with Legambiente, designed to raise awareness among citizens about the severe impacts of climate change, with the increased frequency and intensity of extreme atmospheric phenomena. Now, prolonged heat waves, droughts, extreme hailstorm, floods, etc. These are no longer rare events, but have become a recurring reality affecting our country and the entire planet. These events are not just statistics, they disrupt our life, damage our community, and pose serious risks to our future and for future generations. Hence, ClipMap initiative aims to shine a spotlight on the impact of climate change and meteorological and hydrological phenomena that affects each of us. ClipMap was able to capture, to direct the experience of citizens across Italy. Basically, it was in Italy, by providing platform where every individual can report their encounters with extreme weather event and illustrate the concrete through an images. So basically, citizens were able to catch by photo whatever extreme weather events they were facing, and they were used to upload it, as we can see now, on the platform. So basically, it's a connection between municipalities, government, and the citizens. So basically, this initiative not only aimed to raise awareness among citizens, but also to demonstrate the power of citizen science and to enhance community engagement and collective responsibility of sustainable development goals implementation. Next one, I think, is the final one. And basically, thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Beljawi.
Thank you.
So, and sorry for the problems with the presentation. Yeah, digital tools. Oh.
It's not
That's the
working.
topic we are talking about. Okay. All right. Are there any questions regarding this presentation? Thank you again, very much.
Thank you.
So yeah, please free to raise your hand, or I don't know if the smile is a raising hand, or is it just to comment the
I'm
presentation.
sorry, I don't have my mouse with me, so it was a hand up. Thank you very much for the presentation, Elena. Can I ask you, how many years did you do this this survey? Because I guess you need to have a timeline for people to understand there's a change. And was it students, or what kind of did you?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the last part.
What kind of citizens did you involve, and how long was the timeline that you did this?
Basically, it wasn't for too long. For the citizen, it was open for everyone. Of course, we had to have a filter of the engagement from citizens, but basically, it was open for anyone who was ready to post about this climate change effects.
Okay, thank you. More questions or other questions? Yeah, then maybe one question from my side. You said by the perception mapping that it's possible to react on local circumstances, more or less. How far do you go, like downwards when regarding local aspects? Is it a city quarter, or is it a streetwise, or it's really flexible and scalable because it's a GIS system and you can like just zoom in and zoom out more or less?
Basically, for perception mapping, it's like different. For ClipMap, it was basically more based in the north, because in 2021, if I'm not correct, there was a climate hazard in the north of Italy. So basically, it was more focused there. But basically, it's more open.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Then thank you again for your presentation, and looking at the time, we just go back to the next presenter. So now we have Mrs. Olga Müller from Hungary, and her topic, just give me a second to switch the presentations. National and local level databases and information sources in Hungary. And Yes.
I'm here. Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Just I start, and you can just introduce yourself, Ms. Miller. Hello.
Hello. I work for the National Adaptation Center unit of Hungaromed, the Hungarian Meteorological Service, and I will talk about national and local level adaptation databases and information sources in Hungary. I will mainly talk about the National Adaptation Geoinformation System, and later about one of our live projects. Okay.
Yeah, just give me a sign to the next slide. Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry.
Firstly, I will talk about the National Adaptation Geoinformation System, shortly NAGIS, about its general objectives, its structure, its legislative background, its establishment and development, and the climate vulnerability assessments within NAGIS. Then I will briefly talk about the Live CleanCo project, because for this project, the results of NAGIS were employed and local databases were created within the project as well. Next slide, please. So the National Adaptation Geoinformation System. Next slide, please. Okay. The main objectives of NAGIS were to provide data and information on social, economic, and environmental vulnerability to climate change, and to operate a multifunctional, user-friendly geoinformation database, also based on data from several other databases. NAGIS also aimed to develop a methodology for data collection and impact and vulnerability assessment of climate change. NAGIS functions as a web-based information hub for all stakeholders who need reliable, objective information and data on climate change, climate trends, and climate change adaptation possibilities. So NAGIS can facilitate policy making, strategy building, and decision making related to climate impact assessments and adaptation measures. NAGIS also supports the implementation, supervision, and evaluation of the national climate change strategy. Next slide, please. Based on the results of research and analyzing activities of the NAGIS, it may provide information for central, territorial, and local administration, and also for sectoral and territorial planning. Data and information is available in several fields connected to climate change. I listed these fields here on the slide. And after that, we can go to next slide. The legal foundation of NAGIS was laid down by an act of 2007 about climate change, which says that the implementation of the adaptation strategy, which here in Hungary is the part of the national climate change strategy, must be supported by a national adaptation geoinformation system. There is also a government decree concerning NAGIS that describe the detailed rules of operation of NAGIS, which were adopted in 2014. After several organizational changes, NAGIS is currently operated by Hungaromed, the Hungarian Meteorological Service, since this January. Next slide, please. Here is a figure about the development process of NAGIS. Below you can see the act that created the legal foundation of NAGIS, and later the government decree about the operational rules. And Below you can see the establishing of the NEGIS project, which lasted from 2013 to 2016, and it was funded by a European Economic Area Grant Fund. During this project, the main parts of NEGIS were created: the map portal, the database, and the metadatabase. And above, you can see the further development of NEGIS project, which lasted from 2016 until 2019, and it was supported by the Environmental and Energy Efficiency Operational Program. During this project, policy and municipal decision support tools were developed. 3 modules, I will talk about 2 of them later. And also during this project, several studies, researches, and climate change vulnerability assessments were completed in different subjects, for example, in tourism, public health, agriculture, and the latest one is the climate change vulnerability assessment of critical infrastructure networks in Hungary, which was completed last year. The results of these assessments and researches were integrated in the map portal and the database, and the research reports and studies can be found in the document repository. Next slide, please. As I mentioned, several climate vulnerability assessments were completed within NEGIS. Their methodology is based on the so-called CIVAS model. It is the abbreviation of Climate Impact and Vulnerability Assessment Scheme, and this model relies on the approach published in the 4th IPCC assessment report. For this model, we define the exposure, which means the climate change and other environmental changes at a given area. This is usually based on climate indicators from historical meteorological data or climate models. Then the sensitivity of the impacted system to climate change is also determined. The sensitivity of these systems, for example, physical systems, social groups, or regions, is independent from climate change. The exposure and sensitivity combined will show the expected impacts of climate change at a particular location or system. Then adaptive capacity is a non-climatic factor that describes local socioeconomic responses to climate change and adaptation strategies that can reduce the negative impacts of climate change. And after all of this, vulnerability is always a complex indicator that combines exposure, sensitivity, and adaptive capacity. Next slide, please. Now I'll briefly present the main parts and modules of NEGIS. As I mentioned, the main parts of NEGIS are the map server, the database, and the metadatabase, which were created during the establishment of NEGIS project. You can see this on the figure below. And the decision support tools were created later during the further development. Next slide, please. So the map portal contains hundreds of map layers which show the different aspects of climate change. It can be reached from the upper menu, and we can see it without registration, but it is only available in Hungarian, unfortunately. Next slide, please. Here we can search for settlements or select a topic. The main topics of the map server are the following. I listed them on the right. Each of them are connected to climate change or adaptation in a certain way. Next slide, please. If we choose a main topic, like I chose climate here, then there are following subtopics within each main topic. I chose climatic indexes here, and after that I can select a specific indicator. I chose the expected change in the number of hot days. Of course, there is a time period for this indicator and also a climate model according to which the change was calculated. The type of indicator according to the CIVAS model that I mentioned just before is always indicated. This is, for example, an exposure indicator. And after we chose the indicator, the map appears. There is, of course, always a legend next to the map and a layer description as well. Maps can be exported or printed. Okay, we can go to the next slide. The metadata base facilitates the navigation through all the information in the system, and it provides information on all the data in edges, so we can see what is available and very exactly within the system. We can have access to it also without registration, but it is only available in Hungarian, but there is a description in English as well. There is a search engine within this module, so we can search for certain expression, topic, author, category, or select from a drop-down menu. Next slide, please. We can reach the metadatabase from the map server as well. If we click on the detailed metadata for the layer, then we get into the metadatabase. Next slide, please. The document repository collects the most important studies and publications, and they can be downloaded from here without registration. There are also English language documents here, not just Hungarian, and the user guide in English is available here as well. Okay, we can go to the next slide. Then there are the modules for experts. They can be reached from the upper menu, but only after switching the language to Hungarian, as they are all only available in Hungarian. These modules require registration. For the Geodat database, anyone can register it now, but for the decision support tools, only 1% per municipality can register it and have access to these modules. Next slide, please. The database called Geodat contains all the data that the map layers are based on. These are mainly calculation results based on climate modeling and the indicators in climate vulnerability assessments, but there are also data from other databases. Its structure is the same as the map servers. The same main topics can be found here, and it synchronizes automatically with the map server. We can search here and launch queries, and the data is displayed in tables or in graphic formats, and it can be exported in Excel as well. Next slide, please. Now I present two of the decision support tools. The first one is the settlement adaptation barometer. An important objective of the further development of NAGIS was to support and provide information for climate action planning at municipal level, for example, for planning climate strategies. The settlement adaptation barometer is basically a thematic questionnaire for municipalities. Next slide, please. This is how the questionnaire looks. It is only in Hungarian, unfortunately. It is previous slide, please. Okay. It is recommended that several persons from the municipality, experts from different sectors, fill in the questionnaire together, and they discuss the questions, problems, climate impacts, and potential solutions. The questionnaire examines which impacts of climate change are the most significant in different municipalities and how they can be addressed. There are general questions and thematic questions concerning the municipalities. The general questions are about social and economic aspects, and also about environmental problems or problems connected to climate change and necessary developments. We can choose from a list. And after that, the questionnaire offers only those thematic questions that are relevant for the municipality based on the general questions. For example, if we choose that floods are a significant problem for our municipality, then we receive questions about floods. But if we don't choose a certain problem or climate impact, then we won't receive questions about it. This questionnaire aims to start a proper discussion about climate change and reveal the problems that need to be addressed, and this can be a base for local climate strategies. Next slide, please. The settlement building stock vulnerability estimator module is the result of a climate vulnerability assessment based on the CIVAS model that I presented before. Some of the data used in the assessment are only openly available for settlements bigger than 10,000 residents, but smaller municipalities can upload data on their building stock, and the system calculates their vulnerability automatically. Next slide, please. Different types of buildings have different sensitivity to climate change. Here is a categorization about this on the left above. This categorization examines vulnerability to temperature, precipitation, and wind. Previous slide, please. On the right, you can see an interface where there are the building categories with photos, and the municipalities can fill in the exact number of different types of buildings here, and the results and the vulnerability categories can be viewed and exported as tables or maps. You can see the maps below. Okay, next slide, please. That was all I wanted to say about the NEGIS, and now shortly about Life Clean Co project, where NEGIS data were employed in practice. The Life Clean Co project, the acronym stands for Cooperation Between Cities and Local Companies for Climate Change Adaptation. The project started in 2020, and it will end later this year. This project targets urban areas functioning as industrial centers without any cooperation between municipalities and industrial companies considering climate change adaptation. The project intends to provide several innovative nature-based solutions to facilitate climate change adaptation and reduce climate impacts by defining actions in close cooperation between municipalities and industrial companies. The city of Kazincbarcika and the largest chemical company of the region, Borsod-Chem, joined the University of Miskolc and other professional organizations, including Hungaromet, to encourage climate adaptation in the region. The municipality company experiences of the Life Clean Co project are planned to be reproduced at other locations later. A number of adaptation activities were completed within the project, such as a joint climate adaptation strategy for Kazincbarcika and Borsod-Chem. It was based on NEGIS data and methodology. Also, a methodological guide was prepared for planning other similar joint adaptation strategies, and the collection of good climate adaptation practices was also created. Beyond this, several databases were created for Kazincbarcika and Borsod-Chem. Next slide, please. Okay. One of these local databases is a GIS-based tree inventory for Kazincbarcika, which you can see above. Its objective is to monitor the trees in the town and to collect and also update information on them. For the development of the tree inventory, geodetic surveys were completed and data about tree trunk diameter, height, canopy diameter, and tree species were recorded to create an online map. Another local database is the water dashboard. You can see it below the tree inventory. It was created because Porsche-Chem, the chemical company, uses a lot of water during its activities. This water comes from the Shayo River, so it is essential to monitor the water supply of the river. The water dashboard shows the actual water temperature, the rate of flow, and the number of days without precipitation. And these are real-time data. And after all, also a database called LISMAP is being created. It is a collection for all project results, including the tree inventory, and it will be available soon on the project website, which you can see on this slide. Next slide, please. And this is the end of my presentation. Thank you for your attention. And if you have any questions, please ask.
Thank you, Ms. Müller, for your detailed presentation. Yeah, so regarding the time, I would only allow just one question, or if something is pressing. If not, then I would like to invite Mihai Gete to start presentation. And as I don't have your presentation, so you have to maybe start it yourself. And therefore I give you like co-host rights.
Okay.
And yeah, just maybe can find some short version of your presentations, or like put some emphasis on the relevant topics. But
Yes.
welcome in this round, and then now we switch topics again back to a more to a practical example. Mr. Rete, I hope I pronounced right. The stage is yours.
Yes, thank you very much. Hi, my name is Mihai Getze, and I'm in charge of technology at Bike Citizens. I hope everyone can see the slide. So I'm going to talk today about learning from ridership data at Bike Citizens. So first of all, maybe what is Bike Citizens? Like for users, it's an application that allows them to find their way or to more easily cycle, especially within urban areas. So what it actually means is that we offer like a route planning, we offer a way to record your rides, and we also do offer some interesting campaigns and other events. So the philosophy of the company is based on the fact that we want to have like a self-sustaining cycle to improve the use of bicycles within urban areas. This starts with the ability for people to actually use route navigation and planning in order to get around the city. Furthermore, we try to enhance the amount and quality of cycling by using various motivational campaigns, such as our bike benefit campaign, where you can get goodies if you cycle, bike to work or bike to school campaign with people basically competing on how often they cycle to work. A pink campaign, which is used for detecting problems in cities, especially with regard to, like, for example, potholes and so on. This is connected with a hardware button that allows you to record various places where there was a problem. And all of this creates data. And based on this data, we try to analyze to gain insights from how cyclists in general move around the city. Like, what are the most popular roads? What are the speeds on these roads? what is happening in the city in general. And so we believe this is a very important thing that we also offer to city governments, so that they can improve cycling infrastructure within cities, so that they can act in a way that is, let's say, data-driven and sustainable. So what is cycling infrastructure actually? What does it actually look like? So here I have some examples from a few cities, just to show where exactly are there like places that are dedicated for cycling within certain cities. And you can see it's usually, it might be different in every city. It's usually around rivers and all. And very often cycling infrastructure is not really well connected to each other. So basically, whenever you have cyclists who are trying to move around the city, they are going to use cycling infrastructure, but they're also going to have to switch to streets sometimes and so on. So for city planning, it's a very important thing to understand where do they have to make improvements? Where are streets that maybe are good already, and where can they like kind of improve the cycling infrastructure? And this is where we try to help with the data. So this is one example from Hanover, where the government supports this as the official cycling app. What happened in Hanover was basically they were thinking of improving like cycling paths, and they, based on the information that they gained from bike citizens, they actually managed to find out that one of the routes that they thought was not really relevant at all, the so-called Mittellandkanal, was actually very well used. So the Mittellandkanal is a constructed channel within Germany, and it also passes through Hanover. So they basically thought that that it's not really relevant for cycling, but based on the actual data where they saw that people were cycling, they saw, okay, this is actually an important route, and they are going to prioritize it to make it easier to ride with asphalt roads and so on. Another example is cycling streets in Dortmund. So there is so-called cycling superhighway, let's say it like that, that passes through Dortmund. And this is basically where we analyze how much this change, the number of cyclists changes over the years on this specific route. So the more the street gets built, the more we can actually see that there are more cyclists, there are less delays, and everything is generally running more smoothly on that particular street. We've also analyzed things like what if in Bremen there would be another bridge that was built? This is just a simple simulation to find out how cycling might change in this particular case, based on data that we extrapolated from how people generally cycle in Bremen. And maybe one important, or rather also interesting thing, based on the topic of this presentation, is planning for the future. So we participated in an EU-funded project a while ago, where we were interested in what the impact of climate change will be on cycling. Together with our project partners, we created a tool that allows you to see what happens. Not like there are actually several things. One of them was to find out how weather actually impacts cycling. What does it do to the number of cyclists? What does it do to the location where cyclists move? And here on the screen, on the map, you can see the relative number of cyclists in a specific situation. So here we compare warm weather, like I believe between 20 and 28 degrees, and hot weather where it's over 28 degrees. And here we compare which streets, like, so the warm weather is in blue and the hot weather is in red, and there we can see which streets are preferred in which weather. within the project itself, there was also like research done to figure out what are like heat islands within the city. This is done by our project partner. And what we also analyzed was the effect of variations in temperature, like the wet bulb global temperature, and the effect of variations in precipitation hours to the number of cyclists. And what is kind of interesting here maybe is that there is a peak somewhere here around 25 degrees, which is when most people cycle. When it gets too hot, fewer people cycle. And you can also see a correlation directly to the temperature, where let's say at 10 degrees, it'll be like around 40% of maximum cyclists in general. So this can be used to predict what will happen in the future when the average temperatures, but also the precipitation and other weather events will change. Yeah, one final thing is we are going to release some open data very soon on our new Bike Citizens open data platform. So data from the region of Hanover will be available at this URL starting from the beginning of July. And that's it. Thank you very much. If there are any questions.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Goethe, for your brief but yet mobilizing and interesting presentation. So we are 3 minutes over time, but I want to give you the opportunity to maybe ask 1 or 2 questions if you have some to Mr. Goethe and the example of Bike Citizens here. So if so, then please raise your hand. Okay, and see any questions, then I want to thank you. I want to thank the speakers for their presentations. I want to thank you for your patience and also your endurance. So with the 4 minutes now over time. Thank you for the participation in the 4th Digital Climate Summit. So if you have more questions or more interest in projects or in topics or the other 3 digital summits, so please check out our website or the Facebook site. Test the e-learnings if you like, and yeah, then that leaves me just to thank you all for your attention and wish you a good week, not too hard, and hopefully with no technical issues. So thank you for your attention. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.